Give me the apple. Let's not draw this out.
Philadelphia, Assassin's Creed 3.
We must now all hang together. Yes, we must indeed all hang together. Or most assuredly, we shall all hang separately.
Though people love to hate on it, Assassin's Creed 3 was a game with a lot of scope, especially during its development. Unfortunately, like many of its siblings, it was rushed out of the door to keep up with the annual release cycle, and a lot of stuff was cut for time. That includes Philadelphia, one of America's major cities in the 18th century.
Is that a compliment?
Now, don't misconstrue. I'm sure the whole endeavor will end tragically.
So, why did New York and Boston survive, but Philly was relegated to being a single building Connor only visits briefly? According to Ubisoft, it was a boring setting, thanks to the uncomplicated grid layout it had at the time. They preferred cities that would offer more fun gameplay, despite Philly's important place in American history and culture.
It's one thing to declare our independence. Now, my friend, we must make it so.
The Hookblade, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Ezio, where is your Hookblade?
My Hookblade?
You've never seen one? I grew up using these.
Ezio gets a lot of new gadgets during his time in Constantinople, but the Hookblade is the one that mixes up the gameplay the most. It adds a new layer to the platforming because now you can leap farther than ever before. Ultimately, the Hookblade only really showed up in Revelations, but it was considered by Ubisoft for Black Flag.
Show me how it works.
The Hookblade helps you get around fast. Surprise guards. And is not too bad in a fight either.
However, they opted to stay away from it because it was deemed too cliche for Kenway, pirate, to go around with a big hook on his arm. They said they wanted to lose the association between pirate captains and hooks.
The standard Ottoman Hookblade has two parts, you see. The hook and the blade. So you can use one or the other. An elegant design.
Juno Events, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Commit to this space the epilogue of our ending. Let it be found by he who is deemed worthy. Let it guide him. Let it shape his path forward. Let it save the world we leave behind.
Pre-release footage of the in-game map showed a type of event called a Juno event, with its own map marker. There was massive speculation before the game came out about what this could be, considering that Isu had barely factored into the plots of the previous two games, and Origins was a soft reboot.
Cleansed by fire, cleansed by famine, cleansed by flood.
But then, when the game was released, those events were nowhere to be found. They were actually reworked as the Trials of the Gods side missions and kept in the game, except where they were probably intended to be part of the base game, Ubisoft decided to cut them and make them DLC. Free DLC, sure, but it was still turned into a timed live service event. The Battle of Forlì, Assassin's Creed 2.
Is there another way into this place?
Aspetta. Perhaps yes. There's an old tunnel under the western wall from the canal.
Bene. I'll be right back.
Speaking of DLC removed from the base game, however, Assassin's Creed 2 fared far worse than Origins in that regard. Even though it was just the second game, it was still rushed out the door before developers had time to finish everything they wanted to. In the base game, we jumped straight from Sequence 11 to Sequence 14, but 2 Forlì expansions were released, costing $9 in total, adding Sequences 12 and 13. Described in-game as the sequences being temporarily corrupted, it's outrageous that Ubisoft charged players for major story content required to get the complete experience, but we can't say we're surprised.
I'm so sorry, Ezio. I'm so sorry.
What happened?
It was a trick to lower our defenses.
Scalping, Assassin's Creed 3. Early footage shown to the press showed Connor claiming the scalps of his victims, a practice not only done by Native Americans during their wars with American settlers, but by many different cultures all over the world long ago. However, scalping was eventually removed from the game for a handful of reasons. It was deemed too gruesome by Ubisoft developers and didn't fit with Connor's character. But more than that, the game's Native American advisors told them to get rid of it.
I thought it might bring clarity or instill a sense of accomplishment, but all I feel is regret.
Hold fast to that. Such sacrifices must never come lightly.
Their primary liaison was Thomas Deere, and he explained that the Mohawk people, Connor's tribe, weren't one of the tribes who actually scalped, making its inclusion historically inaccurate. It's probably for the best that this was removed.
How fares the hunt, Connor?
There is progress, but I worry it is not enough.
Connor's Soliloquy, Assassin's Creed 3.
I thought if I could stop the Templars, if I could keep the revolution free from their influence, that those I supported would do what was right.
At the end of AC3, you'll be treated to a long and carefully written soliloquy from Connor about the events of the game. At least, you were supposed to be, but for whatever reason, this was cut ahead of release. But the audio for his speech was still recorded by his voice actor and was later dug up by fans.
It has been hard at times, but never harder than today. To see all I worked for, perverted, discarded, forgotten.
Connor may be a divisive character, but this epilogue speech makes you understand him more than the rest of the game combined. He talks about his conflict with Hatham, his problems with the American Revolution not living up to what he hoped, and about how he's going to continue fighting for the assassins and for what's right.
I realize now that it will take time, that the road ahead is long and shrouded in darkness. It is a road that will not always take me where I wish to go, and I doubt I will live to see its end. But I will travel down it nonetheless.
Canoes, Assassin's Creed 3.
So what is your stake in all this?
Same as yours. Peace, stability. A land in which all might live side by side, free and equal.
Initially, it was planned that you'd be able to sail around in a canoe through the many rivers of colonial America. Stills were released of this mechanic, but it was conspicuously absent from the finished product. People wondered for years why this was the case, but in 2019, the game's creative director explained.
Then what would you propose we do? Sit and watch while the Templars take control? We are sworn to stop them, or have you forgotten?
Alex Hutchinson said the canoe was simply boring to use when compared to the free-running traversal the game prioritized, so it was cut. But there was still plenty of sailing in Assassin's Creed 3 since it was the first game to feature naval combat, and Liberation would later allow Aveline to sail a canoe through the bayou. Aya, Assassin's Creed Origins.
When we assassinate only those who deserve it. The few sick souls who try to control us. But they will never know who we are.
In 2020, an in-depth report by games journalist Jason Schreier revealed that Ubisoft and female lead characters don't get along. This came during a string of allegations against Ubisoft, and former developers said they were given orders from on high to reduce the roles of female characters, claiming the games wouldn't sell.
She plans to take back the throne. She wants this snake dead as much as we do. And she trusts me. She gave me this.
This resulted in Aya's role being made far smaller in AC Origins, forcing them to cut out plenty of planned content about the character. We're still not sure exactly what an Aya-focused game would have looked like, but she was a very compelling character when she did appear, and at least some of her gameplay segments survived. Crossbow, Assassin's Creed. Much like the infamous Canoe, early cinematic trailers for the very first game in the franchise showed Altair using a crossbow to dispatch his enemies, but it was removed. Ubisoft's reasoning for this was that it wouldn't be historically accurate, though it's far more complicated than that. The history buffs among you will know that the first crossbows were invented roughly 1500 years before the first game took place, but Ubisoft still cut it out. This has been speculated to be because the period-accurate crossbow Altair should have been using would have taken forever to reload. Ubisoft had a choice between a slow and boring historically accurate crossbow or a fast and fun but inaccurate one. They decided to get rid of it entirely and give Altair throwing knives.
So be it. Take your equipment and go. Prove that you are not yet lost to us.
Desmonds Story. Various.
They know I'm here, Rebecca. There's no way they don't.
This was a bad idea.
He was the glue that once held the franchise together, with players still lamenting how interesting modern-day storylines disappeared after his death in AC3. But it wasn't always supposed to end this way. Nolan North explained in an interview that the original pitch for the series was a contained 6-game run, in which Desmond would slowly gain more and more abilities via the bleeding effect.
Give me the apple. Let's not draw this out.
He'd then be the ultimate assassin, and at some point, him leaving Earth in a spaceship was considered. This was all scrapped, however. Desmond died at the end of the 5th game after averting the solar flare apocalypse, and the bleeding effect turns out to be nowhere near that important in the end.
It's already started. I need to do this now. So go. Go!
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.